and here. Bring that spice of beer. Don't drink, you gotta live. Bring that spice of beer. We gonna drink now and here. Bring that spice of beer. Bring that spice of beer.
Their owners and their general people around.
Funny thing about that dog was she was my ex-wife's dog. And we brought her to live with us in the mountains, and she was like 7 or 8 years old at that point. And she attached herself to me. And my ex-wife was so jealous.
Didn't like it,
I said, "You little dog, I saved your life." No.
And now you're going to...
Dog just followed me around. Like,
give the credit to
You're my man. You're my man. And she would look at her like, stepsister.
Oh, no. that would probably make her mad,
Yeah. So I think that's when I got Cabo, male dog. Like, and he attaches himself to females, and he will try to wedge himself between me and every female that comes around. Like,
well, that doesn't help yet.
All right, welcome back to the pub.
Yes, sir. Woo! Here we are.
Guitar guy John. You're trying the Red Rocker beer.
Yeah, well, let's see how it
Sammy
is.
Hagar's beer.
Well, makes me want to drive faster than 55.
You know what?
Right, exactly.
Somebody gave me that.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten about it. And when I moved a filing cabinet, and I was going through it, and that thing just fell out.
Oh, you found it? Oh, I got this.
Well, I got to put it back up here, man.
Heck yeah.
I don't have a record player or anything, but it's like, why not?
Is that from a single?
Is
that like a record sleeve?
Yeah, there's a...
Oh, you got it in there. Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Is
there a single song on there? Is there? Let's see.
It's probably just.
I need my glasses to read it. Burning Down the City. Or I Can't Drive 55.
Yeah, there you go.
One song on each side.
Is that a 78 or a what is that? 45 or 45? I think, right?
412. It's got to be a 45.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Well,
no audio file here.
my mom or my parents both when my sister and I were kids, they had this green box. You know, it's like it looks like a box for books, but it was all full of those old 45s, and there was all. I remember one year for Christmas, my dad got both me and my sister the Radio Shack. You know, the turntables, receiver, and the 2 tape decks, and man, I wore that thing out listening to those 45s. Yeah, but yeah, that's fun stuff.
It has to be a 45. It had the large opening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're right.
You had to have like the adapter.
Exactly, the little.
Wow, old stuff. Man.
Yeah,
old tech.
But man, all that stuff comes back after a while. I mean, you can.
And people. Yeah, I think what our albums higher like. When people are buying actual physical music nowadays, they're going for albums.
They seem to be.
Yeah, it's like CDs and, well, obviously cassettes.
It seems like every concert merch table you go to, they've got like the LP version of whatever recording it is.
Your opinion, is it really better on vinyl?
I don't know. Okay, I will say this. There's a little different sound to it. Whether you like that sound or not I think dictates whether it's better. I know I have my grandparents' old, it's got to be a late 60s, early 70s. It's not tube or vacuum tube, but it's a 70s RCA turntable, and it's probably about as big as this table. I mean, it takes up an entire wall. It has a bass sound to it like nothing I've ever heard. I remember my grandmother used to put on old Johnny Cash records, and you'd hear that boom chicka boom chicka boom chicka, and that bass coming out of there would vibrate the floor.
Now they're playing the big bass, right?
Yep, stand-ups, yeah. Okay. But I just remember the tonality of that, and it was more it was a piece of furniture, basically. It was the tent. I mean, it really was. Even back when you look at the
old... You did like 2-3 strong moving guys and some equipment to move that thing in.
100%, exactly right. Or even if you look at the old, I don't know, like the kind of Norman Rockwell type of pictures back from the 20s and 30s of the family gathered around the radio, and it's a piece of furniture, and I think this thing had that same kind of vibe to it, but but the sound of it is, through that sounded fantastic. You'd play it on something different, maybe it didn't sound quite as good, but I remember reading an article. This was back in these magazines that my dad had that were recording industry magazines, that and it was a point in the time in the 90s where they were saying recordings and music is going to go one way or another. It's either going to go, because this was back when, like, I just remember bands like the Grateful Dead were re-releasing a lot of their stuff on 5.1, so you could sit in a room and hear Jerry over there and Phil over here, you know, and
5.1, okay,
hearing the parts as if they're surrounding you. Yeah. They said it's either going to go like that or it's going to go convenience, and it went convenience, you know, in terms of being able to have your whole collection on a device. That
might be why people are going back to the old school.
I think you're right.
Stuff, yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's something to be said for that. I honestly, how can you beat having every song that you would ever want to hear on a device that's not even stored in it, you know, that just be able to pull whatever up.
Pull up on command, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess I can see how that would beat fidelity in a certain manner of speaking, but still, it is cool to sit in a room with a bunch of speakers, either 5, 7, 9, whatever, 0.1, and get the especially with like a Pink Floyd thing. Here comes the helicopter. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember just even stereo sound doing that from speaker to speaker. I'm like, ooh,
yeah.
You know, it's like. Or, I mean, you can sometimes still hear it in headphones.
Headphones.
Right? Something on this side and then something on that side. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You do get some of it depending on the quality of the stream or if you have an MP3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I have just one headphone in because I'm kind of doing something else.
Yeah.
I'm like, only hearing half. Wait, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, it disappeared.
Oh, it's good now. I thought something was wrong, man.
Right. Yeah, seriously.
No, I love, man. Music is such a really cool thing. And it's one of those things back in the day when I was a Metallica fan. It was like, Metallica, my band.
Yeah.
Not my band, you're my enemy.
Right. Yeah. It was like, if you don't like
it's not so much that anymore, and I appreciate that now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, you could have more than one band. And you can have many bands, and you can have many different types of music.
True.
And that was kind of played up in the day where they would kind of like fight each other and kind of, you know, talk nasty to each other, but you listen to them now, it's like behind the scenes they were all cool with each other.
They were all good, yeah.
It was just part of the show. But
and I think especially with I don't want to say kids, but when you're growing up, you want to identify with something, right? Mm-hmm. or at least be feel part of it, I guess. You know, mm-hmm. It's funny, even on those Jocko podcasts, like we were talking about. Mm-hmm. He asked a lot of his guests, "What kind of music were you listening to?" You know, and it's a funny question asking different people, and I'm always kind of intrigued by what different guys will say. And you know, so some guys will be like, "Oh, it was hardcore," or and the guys who are a little older, and you know, at least coming out of 60s, 70s, oh, it was the Beach Boys and the Eagles and whatever. But you know, some of the fighter pilots, oh no, I listen to classical music. You know, guys, it was just really cool to see this cross section, and it was I don't want to say this 100%, but the style almost fit what their role was in a funny way. I mean, not to say that that's across the board, but there's tendencies, I guess.
Well, there might be something to that too, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what their style of what they do is, there's something that syncs up to it. Yeah. And that speaks a lot to vibrations, and that's another concept I think we were kind of getting into, how vibrations and resonant frequencies. And I've used the term a lot lately, and it's making more sense to me. I mean, electrical frequencies, radio frequencies, they overlap. Even light frequencies overlap.
They do.
Like the fluorescent light there and that light there, they flash at different levels. If one of these cameras syncs up with that, you get that weird waviness in the camera.
Yeah.
And I did get that at one point, and I noticed, I think with the old camera and that big light, if I was at a certain distance, the way it was reflecting off the wall would put these waves in the camera.
Yeah.
And it's the refresh rate, and it's between that and the way that light is pulsing. So it's everywhere. And it's in everything. And
it really is.
And it's but music, to me, certain types of music resonate well with me, and it's like that fits me and that feels right.
Yeah.
And there's certain types of music that just gives me a nasty feeling, like I don't like this.
Yeah.
I really don't like this.
Yes.
And when I see other people that like that stuff, and it's like, why does that work with you? Because it doesn't work with me, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So there's still some of that with me, but I'm more open to it, and I've tried to be more understanding with it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, do you see the same thing?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and I've never really gone down, and I don't know if I care to, because I haven't really figured out what I think about it. But I mean, to get to a metaphysical type of thing, it's like, why does a vibration, or a particular thing resonate with me or with someone and not other people? Like what is it exactly? I mean, and to measure that, at least scientifically, or even to try to, I don't know if you're barking up the wrong tree by doing that, because it's like, I don't know if there's a measurement, which is the scientific way of thinking about it, to do that. What is it exactly? I don't know.
There is if it's a thing and you can measure it, then you can start to figure things out from there.
Yeah.
But I think there's some of it that some people don't want to know, and they want to keep the mystery, and I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
I'm of the mind where I want to know.
Yeah.
I really want to know. If it's really curious to me, I start digging.
Yeah.
And it's tough sometimes to even get off that trail. It's like, there's something to it.
Yeah.
I want to know more. I want to know why.
Yeah. Well, even
and then, of course, I can make my mind control device from it.
Right.
Take over the world.
True.
Someday.
Yeah.
Well, you'll never know it. It's on the frequency now. It's infecting you now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Even I remember I went to school for college for music ed, and I remember in certain classes, I remember one specifically in a music history class, this professor, they had tuned a piano. They had tuned a piano so that everything was equal in pitch going up, if I might be wrong, so if any piano tuners are watching this, don't slay me on this, but I think you start from the middle and work your way out to the ends on the basically it's a massive harp inside a piano.
Yeah.
And I think you start from the middle and work your way out to the edges. So they tuned this piano kind of as an experiment to show people, if you tune something perfectly, mathematically perfectly, sounded horrible. It was so off that, like, and the further you went up the scale or the not the fingerboard, whatever I'm thinking, the keyboard. The further you went up the keyboard, the worse it sounded. And it wasn't like they were trying to say, I guess there's a thing when you tune a piano, even on guitars and a lot of things, especially on a shorter scale instrument, there's a lot more fudge that you almost got to listen to the beating of the notes against other notes to see if they will, because you know how like basically a frequency, you could relegate it down to a sine wave. So if you get another one that is clashing against it, well, you're going to have that beating, that whoa 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 until
right.
whoa 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 whoa, and it comes together.
Right.
So a lot of those guys who do that, and I'm sure you could probably express it mathematically, but I think there's a bit of a fudge in the tuning in terms of what basic tone that you're starting with somewhere, because you have to have a jumping off point. For one note has to be toned pure, and then the rest of them, as you go up, there's a bit of a fudge to make the tone so that they do equal up. And
so you're talking about if it's mathematically perfect, you end up with those frequencies that cross each other, and it sounds bad.
The further you go out from whatever, like say like in an orchestra, A440 is there. When the violin starts that, and you hear all the instruments come in and tune off that. Usually it's an A tone, which an A note, or 440 hertz, which is that note. So they, on a piano keyboard, you've got 88 divided by 2, so you've got 44 this way and 44 this way, and to I guess it's the further you go up from whatever the center point is, the more that if each note is tuned mathematically to what its frequency should be, that it'll sound a little off. Just in harmony with the rest of what else is around it, I guess is what the thing is. So you get there's a little bit of, and even on the guitar between the G and the B, that's what I've heard considered the break point. You'll hear a lot of guys, especially the old bluegrassers, who will be like, tune your B just a little bit sharp, or else it'll sound weird with the rest of the chords that you're playing. And even if you're playing in certain keys, like if you're in the key of G, which uses a lot of open notes, you're going to get if you don't tune your B a little, well, you can tune your B a little bit flat, but it'll sound right. But as soon as you hit an E or a C in that same group of notes, it's going to sound off. So there's always this just little, like, I almost kind of call it the like the Cajun cooking way of doing something. It's like, instead of putting it in the measuring cup, we're going to look at it in our hand and say, yeah, that's probably about enough.
So there's subjectiveness to tuning, is what you're saying.
To a degree, there is.
So you almost, I mean, it kind of made me think. There's resonant frequencies.
There are.
In automotive,
yeah,
there's NVH guys. We got to tune things to stay out of those frequencies. Mm-hmm. Whether you're dealing with an engine or you're dealing with just the vehicle itself.
Yeah, like the old bridge.
The vehicle is rigid to a point, but there's a frequency where it will shake.
Yeah.
Right. So everything else has to be tuned out of that frequency. Otherwise, the car will shake itself apart.
Yep.
Just like the bridge we've seen on the old
footage.
Yeah, just hit that resonant frequency and kept going and going and going.
Yep.
And one of the guys, I mean, Nikola Tesla came up with the resonator, and one of the old stories with him is he was playing with this thing in a hotel room, and it was shaking the whole fucking building.
No kidding, yeah.
And when someone kind of came into his room, and the police came into the room to figure out what was going on, he's like smashing the thing. He couldn't get it to stop, It's like... But he almost took the entire building down. I mean, it's like a small device, and he also thought that if he could ring something and it could resonate through the whole world, you can create energy from that and collect it. And it's like he was really onto a lot of things.
Yeah.
And radio waves are that way. You're putting a frequency out there. You put an antenna out there. The antenna collects that frequency.
Yep.
Comes down to the radio, and then you have an amplifier that amplifies that signal, and you can hear something.
Yeah.
And he was basically, you can transmit energy that way.
Yeah.
And all everyone needs is an antenna, and you're collecting energy and going. But he wanted to pump it out into the world for free. Yeah. And the people that shut it down were like, well, we can't collect money on that, so no.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the conspiracies go. Oh, they tore it down. They tore his the tower. I'll put something up because
you'll come up with it. Yeah.
It's the Wardenclyffe Tower. Yeah, it's they tore it all down for all that reason, and a lot of people are still trying to play with that kind of stuff. And honestly, we do use a lot of that stuff. Like the wireless chargers of our phones. Yeah, like the decks in cars. It's the same Tesla technology, and it's you're transmitting energy through a frequency. Your phone picks it up as a frequency and charges the battery with it. Yep. And it's very inefficient, but we use it. Yeah. And it's because they're doing it at a very short wave. That's long. He was trying to go around the world with it, but stuff like that is so cool. The fact that over 100 years ago, this guy's figuring all that stuff out. And we're just now really starting to understand this kind of stuff. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. And that's kind of one of those things where it's the conversation of music flows into all these other things. And I think if you have an understanding of that, it gives you a little bit of an edge up of understanding some of these other things. Yeah. Well, like Tom Waits, who's another songwriter that I love, he one time somebody asked him, it's like, so how do you, or they were asking him something about music. He's like, I always just looked at it as something really interesting to do with air. It is, because that's you're transmitting through the air. It is, because you figure you buy all this stuff to make this thing, and nobody sees it. You just feel it or hear it, and it's. I mean, obviously we know what it is, but was it the movie Mystery Men? Was he in that? He was. Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's like doing like weird things. Like,
that's his vibe, man. I love that guy. Yeah, he's great. But.
Yeah, that's one of my useless superpowers is being able to call up old comedy movies.
Hey,
and
that's not a bad one for that. Yeah, no, that's But
won't help Superman in a pinch, but
yeah,
good in a bar conversation.
Hey, it's got its audience, it's got its place. Yeah,
that was one of the things like my older brother and his friends were like masters of, and I always watched that and admired it. Like they all stand around in a group, and like a movie topic comes up, and they're all ramming out
reciting
the lines are just popping up. Like, oh, this is so awesome! It's like very rare do I come across other people that can do that.
Yeah, anymore.
But when I do, it's like it's almost like a riff. We're just riffing off each other, and we just start laughing. And it's just awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, what better good feeling is there than a good comedy movie? You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's something we're slowly losing in today's society. It's like most of the movies suck. There's not been a good comedy movie in a long time. I think the last great comedy movie I can think of was Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was like early 2000s.
Yeah.
And then now that's coming under fire. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, I know why, but it's dumb why, like, if you ask me. But, yeah.
For people that have issues with that movie, I say, you know what? Go sit yourself in a room, watch Blazing Saddles.
Right.
Unedited.
Yes.
And if your head explodes, problem solved.
Yeah, right, exactly. Seriously. No.
We don't need you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what was the thing? Jordan Peterson said something about to think or to say things that you thought about is to risk being offensive. And because it's, well, just like how they always say, like when a new kind of style or group, or I don't want to say genre of music because that's pretty darn broad, but something that's groundbreaking, a lot of people don't like it. Or maybe their tendency is not to like it because it's like, I don't know how to press it. Or either you might love it, depending.
Human beings are inherently adverse to change.
Yeah.
Right, and then there's an adoption curve that Simon Sinek introduced me to. It was called it's a bell curve, right? And the first 2 to 3% are like the early adopters. These guys get it.
Yeah.
Right, and then beyond that, it's like an early majority, like first 18%.
Yeah.
The early majority is like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. And
then after that, you got your late majority, and then all the way on the other end are your laggards.
Yeah.
And these are the guys like, hey, they're still going to use a rotary phone if they're available. It's
right,
like they're not going to change, right? So there's always that kind of on every new adoption curve.
Yeah.
And it's something that's been brought to light to me in so many different levels. Tesla as a car company, Elon Musk, is one of those things that it's brought it all together for me in real time. I'm watching this happen.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about electric cars, and like, yeah, it's something I know a lot of, and most people will say this guy won't shut up about Tesla, but hey, I'm an automotive guy. I'm a hot rodder through and through, American muscle all the way.
Yep.
But when I see Teslas blowing the doors off of my old favorite cars, like, you know what? That wins.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, I like tech. I like the new stuff. And I was a bit of an early adopter.
Yeah.
I watched it for many reasons. I mean, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Right? You name a car company Tesla. I want to see your
what you're doing with
AC powered motor, man. I want to see what you're doing. And they were doing that. And the battery technology came around, and they started, Elon Musk took over, and they really developed when it came to the Model S.
Did he found that company, or did he kind of take it over?
He took it over.
Okay.
Very early on.
Okay.
He bought into it, and he took it over very early on. So
a
lot of people thought, he invented it. No, he didn't. But I mean,
okay.
The original founders, I think, have been moved on, or they've moved on.
Okay.
I'm not sure the circumstances. I know there was some, I guess, not so good feelings along the way. Understandably. I mean,
as there might be in a buyout. Yeah.
It's your brainchild, and someone else takes over. But
right.
The level that it would never have survived had Elon not taken over, though.
Sure.
The man is so smart in terms of automotive history and understanding disruptive changes and understanding the forces that are going to try to stop that. So any power, anybody who's obtained a certain amount of power, they're not going to want to lose it.
Right.
And they're going to fight to keep it.
Yeah.
So if they can't, it's like first they'll ignore you, and then they'll mock you, and then they'll fight you, and then they'll eventually admit you win.
Yeah.
Right. And then they'll adopt you, and then they'll ask they'll act as if they've always been there all along. Like, oh yeah, we
almost a safe face, right?
Right, yeah. It's, after they were shown, had their asses handed to them, but yeah. So it's one of those things where Tesla's been doing that, and it's watching it in real time, like the early adopter curve, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was just at 2-3% that just, oh yeah, this is the way to go, and then the early adopters kick in, and it's like, oh okay, we got this, and then now we're creeping into the early majority, where people are like, yeah, I want this. This is what I want, and this is what I'm going to get. And, and the late majority is like, oh, is this really viable? I'm like, yeah, it is. And when you understand so many different principles, like the 80-20 principle, Pareto principle, the majority of the time you're using the car, you're within 30 miles of your location.
Right.
What do you need 300 plus miles of range for? You technically don't. Well, how do I charge it up? Well, every house has electricity. Yeah. You get 220 volts. You can charge your car overnight, no problem. Okay. No big deal. Yeah, 220. Think about that, though. I mean, I don't know how many times I've left the house where, I come home and you're just coming home and you want to get home. You're low on gas. It's like you get home, get the kids, whatever. Yeah. You get in the car the next day and like, fuck. Right. I got to run to a gas station. Now I got to, it's like, had I pulled in and plugged my car in, I'd have left the next day with a full charge, no problem. Yeah. There's never that need to detour to go to a gas station on your daily routine. Yeah. So every problem with the electric car has been an engineering solution, and Tesla has thought it through, all the way through, and not only do they think it all the way through, but they use this as like a chess move. It's like a checkmate move. So they put in the supercharger network. Okay, yeah. So they developed a supercharger that can charge your car in like 40 minutes or less. And whether it's a full charge or not, they've worked it in the software that, okay, it'll calculate it up. Maybe you only need to charge 20 minutes here to get to your destination. Yeah. And a lot of places will have destination chargers too. So it's really a good system. And everybody else tried to rely on third parties to build these charging networks. Yeah. And they all suck. Okay. They all suck. So it boiled down to just recently where Tesla is like, hey, you know what? We got more chargers than all the other competitors combined. Why don't you switch to our standard? Because they had a different plug. Yeah. And everyone else is like, we got this gigantic SAE charger with this anaconda of a cord. It's like, you think a 120-pound girl is going to try to plug that thing into her car? No. Tesla's is like slim, elegant, it just clicks right in. Yep. And it does a better job. And they all work. Yeah. So they convinced everybody in the United States to switch over to their standard. Now, Ford's like, we're with you. And then everybody one by one has gone into, okay, all our cars are now going to have Tesla's standard. Yep. You just got to get market share. That was a checkmate move. It's like, not only do I have you, I have all your gas stations too. Yeah. It's like, you can recharge with me. And it's like, now everyone's going to go to, you buy an electric car, say you buy a Ford Mach-E, you're going to a Tesla supercharger, you're going to look at the other cars there. Maybe you have a couple of conversations with those guys with those Teslas, like, what do you think of that? It's awesome. Yeah. Seamless. Everything's great. And like, well, I've got some issues with my Ford, I got to take it to a dealer. I'm like, you got to go to a dealer? Yeah. The guy drives to my house and fixes my car. Half the things they fix over the air. I just connect my car to Wi-Fi and they change the software and it's fixed. Yeah. And Ford guys are like, that sounds way better. Yeah. It's like, I don't know one person who's ever gone to a dealership and had a great experience without being bent over. It's like,
without paying through the nose for it. Yeah.
So the dealership has actually been a problem. The structure of our current auto industry has been a problem. Tesla operates in a very flexible, all hands on deck kind of way of operating. Where automotive, our industry here in Detroit, this is my job, this is my silo, this is what I do. Yeah. And I'm not going to blend my part with your part because that'll eliminate my job. And so I'm going to fight you on that. Tesla's like, they look at the car and go, why don't I make these two parts one? Yeah. And they just do it. And then they iterate on it, and then they do it on the fly in the assembly line. Oh, so really? When can we get these new parts in? Right now. Okay, done. Oh, wow. And it's like the new cars. So I worked for a company, Monroe & Associates, where we dissected cars, and we explained to other companies, this is how they build them. Yeah. By the time we accepted a Tesla and tore it down, and it takes a couple months to tear it down, they've already made 30, 40 changes of the car. So we're already tearing down an out-of-date car
behind them. Yeah,
and it's like hardware, software, everything. They're just iterating so quickly. Where automakers right now, it's like we're going to wait till next model year to make a change.
Yeah,
we're not changing a darn thing on the assembly line.
It's locked in, and that's how.
So everybody is fighting an uphill battle with them.
Yeah,
except for China, who's trying to operate similar to Tesla. So meanwhile, at home, the automakers are fighting Tesla all the way. Going back historically, there's been other automakers that have sprung up and failed. One major one is Tucker.
Yeah.
So you're familiar
with
the old
Tucker. Movie, yeah.
And that movie actually was pretty darn close to reality. And for Hollywood terms, yeah, pretty close. So think about, they even got the SEC involved.
Yeah.
They were trying to use shortcut and take away suppliers. They were doing all these things to manipulate to get Tucker to not being able to make cars.
Yeah.
They did all that to Tesla too.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk. But Elon Musk knew that story and he was able to navigate around that.
Yep.
DeLorean's another one. Right?
Yes, I remember that.
DeLorean got a little further along.
Yeah.
But they still got him out of there. DeLorean wanted a car that could be infinitely serviceable.
Yeah.
That stainless steel body was the idea. It's like that car is going to last forever. We can just keep swapping powertrains out and keep it going.
Yeah.
And that was the idea behind the car. But then they were able to nix him too, very nefariously. Yeah. Maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. But,
right.
Yeah. But, they forced him into that avenue regardless. So, and I think it's like they've tried things with Elon Musk, and it's like I talk to people out on public, and I had this great story about Johnny Blacks, and I was right at the time where Dieselgate's going on with Audi, and I'm wearing my GM shirt, and I usually didn't wear my GM shirts out, and I'm going to the jukebox, and I hear these people talking, and they're from Audi, a whole table of people from Audi.
Oh, okay.
And I hear them talking, like, and I don't know how, I just swung into the conversation and started talking about Tesla, and we're just going back and forth, and one guy's, if we had one of those cars in there, they're junk. Wait till the e-tron comes out. I'm like, yeah, I know all about that e-tron. It's not gonna work, buddy. And we're just going back and forth, and the one lady's like, Elon Musk, isn't he crazy? I'm like, isn't your boss in jail? Because they had just grabbed like the CEO of Audi, and like, you're going to jail, buddy, for all the emissions fraud and stuff. Like,
okay.
So they were on a witch hunt for all these diesel emission scandals.
Oh boy.
So I'm hammering them back one after another, and they look at me, it's like, you work for GM? I'm like, yeah. It's like, why? How do you know so much about Tesla? It's like, well, it's good to know your enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Sun Tzu, Art of War.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, know yourself, know your enemy.
100%. Yep.
So
exactly.
So I would love to have that conversation now with them. How did e-tron work out? It didn't.
Yeah.
The least efficient electric car out there.
Yeah.
And it didn't sell well. So, but Tesla just keeps proving itself over and over and over again. And there's only so much FUD they can put out there against them, and they're running out of things to say.
Yeah.
And their company keeps succeeding. It's like, why aren't we embracing this as an American success story?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're American. Their cars are more American than any other car on the road.
They are.
They're also the safest cars on the road.
Are they? Yeah. Okay.
So if you get in an accident, you're more likely to survive in a Tesla than any other car. So it's everything's just a wash. There's just nothing negative you can say about them. The only one thing you say,
is the price point decent or no?
The average American car is like in the mid 40s, $40,000 range. Yeah. And that's what the average Teslas are sold for.
Are they really?
So, yeah,
okay.
so
I've never looked. I don't know.
Model 3s, Model Ys, you can get them in and around that range.
Okay.
And then when you start factoring in cost of ownership, well, it's a lot cheaper to fuel them.
Yeah.
There's no oil changes.
Yeah.
There's a lot less
there's
service.
no oil changes? No,
there's a lot less service. So
I guess it's not engine oil. It'd just be lubrication on moving parts.
Just a gearbox. It's a single-speed gearbox. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would change things, wouldn't it?
People are like, what's that battery goes? That's a $20,000 replacement. I'm like, that's the top end, and if it's out of warranty.
Yeah.
You got like a 120,000 mile warranty on those batteries.
Really?
I go, your 10-speed transmission, that's going to be about $12,000 replacement on a 10-speed transmission. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Because those are expensive, and there's a lot of moving parts.
There are.
My experience in the testing and research world, the more moving parts, the more opportunity for breakage.
There is, exactly right.
And a 10-speed transmission, just more gears. And it's a lot more complexity.
Yeah.
So it's just been a bottleneck of, like the auto industry's just been running down this bottleneck of cost and complexity. And every time they got to get better emissions, they have to go higher cost in the engine, higher cost in transmissions, more complexity, and it just costs more and more to make an internal combustion engine car.
Yeah.
On the other hand, electric cars are actually very cheap because there's less parts overall. And then the battery chemistry, which is the most expensive part, is getting cheaper all the time.
Okay.
So you got a cost parity where ICE engines are going up and battery electric stuff's going down. And they're at that point, where Tesla's at that point.
Starting to cross over.
Everybody else is a little further behind, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
So in the next couple of years, it's going to be the point where, why are you buying a gas car? You know, it's like 1/5 the cost to fuel up an electric car.
Yeah, if they can do it, man.
I'm like, oh, I want to be able to fill up quickly on a road trip. I'm like, okay, you can spend $60 a fill up, or you can spend $10 a fill up and wait a little longer.
Yeah,
I mean,
or they'll probably even have a thing where you can carry a little box with you and plug it in as you go, or something like that. You know, I don't know.
Well, Rivian and Tesla now offer an actual battery that fits in the bed of the truck.
Yeah.
To extend the range. I mean, it's probably not really worth it.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like really serious towing, hauling.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, trucks. Wow.
What about that? Yeah.
Oh, tow and haul long distances. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I drive the highways a lot, and I see a lot of trucks on the road. And I don't see any of them towing anything. How often do you see trucks towing stuff? It's, again, 80-20 principle, right?
Just like trailers, you mean?
Yeah.
Well.
And even if they are,
how
far are they going? They're probably going within town somewhere. I mean, they're not going very far.
Or you're not talking semi-trucks. You're talking just...
pickup trucks.
I thought you meant like semis. Yeah,
pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, semis. Actually, Tesla's working on that too, and they have like 500-mile range semi-trucks fully loaded.
Yeah.
So they're getting there. It's getting there, and it's getting there fast.
Yeah.
But they're the ones pushing the tech, where everyone else was trying to kind of
adjust to it,
and they had to.
Yeah.
Like if you're an automaker and you make gas cars, now all of a sudden you introduce an electric car that's better than all your gas cars. You just obsoleted all the cost of everything in manufacturing to build those other cars.
Yeah.
And you made it worthless.
Yeah.
So they needed a slow transition to work it over. And here comes Tesla just
jumping out.
Like people are like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's happening. It's happening faster. I see there's YouTubers out there. I did make a video recently with Scotty Kilmer, who's a guy that does a lot of automotive stuff, and he tries to harp on Tesla a lot. And it's like, I made a video. It's like, listen, buddy, you just crossed the line here. And it's like, so I did his video, and I just recorded myself pausing him and then talking over his points.
Okay.
And actually, even during the video, he actually contradicts himself throughout that video. I'm like, you're trying to not sell it, then you're selling it in the same point, and it's like, it's like, I don't know. I think he's a crazy dude. He's loud. He looks like one of those inflatable things where he's just going like this all the time and he's yelling. He's got like 6 million viewers, or something. Like, okay. So I mean, but the problem with that is, it's like people are listening to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, these electric cars catching fire all the time. Like, do you realize that the statistics are, it's like they're 10 times safer in terms of fire than a gas car. And in the U.S. alone, there's like 600 gas fires a day.
Yeah.
Car fires a day. A day?
Yeah.
How often do we hear about that in the news? Never.
Yeah.
One Tesla in China catches fire when we know about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so there's a difference. There's a focus. You know, they're trying to focus on Teslas and slow them down, and EVs, but and you're fighting the media, and you're fighting the mainstream media, and who advertises in the mainstream media, the automakers, and the dealerships, that don't want them either, right? Dealerships don't want them because there's less maintenance, there's less service, so they're going to make less money on them too. So they don't want them either. So these are powerful entities that pay for advertising, and the news media services out there are not going to speak poorly of their advertisers because they want that advertising.
Oh, yeah. It's all about who's padding whose pocket. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I could use some advertising.
Yeah. Kellogg's cornflakes.
You know, a beer sponsor. You know, I mean, it'd be kind of cool. I mean, something I'm not going to talk poorly about. And honestly, I think there's a few.
Hey, Red Rocker, your beer's pretty
good. Hey, Sammy, your beer's awesome, man. I got your tequila over there. I got your album here.
Hey, man.
Sammy would be a great one, man.
You never know.
I'd love to have you on here, Sammy. So, it's nobody wants to bite the hand that feeds them. And there are YouTubers out there that they make a stance. Mm-hmm. That's like they're not going to have advertisers on there that A, going to control them,
right,
and B, nothing they don't want to actually endorse that they don't use themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's a good stance. And if I ever get to that level, that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. And I'm not going to compromise myself and my values because someone's paying me to.
Right.
And that going all the way back to Elon Musk again, where he told everyone, including Bob Iger at Disney, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And good for him for having to do it. Yeah.
Right. He goes, I'm not going to be. People focus on that line.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he said this to these execs. What was the context?
Yeah.
Because I will not be, what did he say, held hostage to your advertising dollars.
Right.
Right. And like, yeah. That's a moral decision.
Yeah.
How do you not get behind that?
I mean, it's ultimately manipulation otherwise. I mean, and yeah, it seems that there's too much of that going on that subverts great ideas, that just because we don't, almost like a closed-minded attitude, just because I don't really want to, therefore I won't, and I'll crap on you for it's unfair, because somebody could be coming up with something that's really, and like you say, honestly innovative. It might take some time and there's bugs to work out and everything, but to just crap on it just because you don't want to, that don't work, Yeah. And I've become more aware of a moral compass and a moral decision to follow things. And when I've tried to learn money as much as possible, and that's given me a very good insight of what to follow, what to do. It's like, hey, you don't want these slave labor and stuff making your cell phones? Don't buy that particular brand of cell phone. Yeah.
And it's like, you vote with your money, and it's the best vote you have in this world. Yeah. And then you have a moral decision not to go somewhere, or not to buy food from somewhere. Mm-hmm. My daughters did this to me, and it's like out and about, and it's like, oh, we go to Jimmy John's? Nope, don't want to go to Jimmy John's. What are you talking about? Oh, the boss got caught for big game hunting, and my daughters love animals.
Oh, I had heard about that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And it's like, okay, that's a moral decision. Mm-hmm. I'll stick with that. You don't want it because he hunts big animals in Africa. Whether it was good and legal or whatever, I don't know. But that's the decision they wanted. Right. I'm like, I like that. Yeah. And that's a moral decision. I'm like, so we won't go to Jimmy John's as a result. Sorry, Jimmy John's, you can't be a sponsor here. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, I get it. Yeah. And that's a good reason to not spend your money there. Sure. So, yeah, I think that's kind of and I showed you like the legs of the table are pillars of stoicism. Yep. That's also something that's kind of helped formulate my thoughts. It's something I learned kind of late in life, but it's also kind of always been there. Mm-hmm. Like one of the things my mother taught me was prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Oh yeah. And it's kind of a tenet of stoicism where you're as long as you're prepared for bad things to happen, when they do happen, you won't panic. Right. You're prepared. Right. But if you're hoping for the best and good things happen, enjoy it and be present and enjoying that. Yeah. So,
don't have your mind invested on things that aren't actually happening when they're not happening. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people aren't present either, and that's a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in terms of distractions and things that are, I mean, it's like scrolling through Instagram versus reading.
Our distraction devices are in front of us all.
Oh yeah, but notice how we keep talking and ignoring them, and which is, I mean, granted there are.
This is really only on to power that. I mean,
yeah, oh yeah. No,
I initially was using this to try to put stuff up on the screen behind me. Yeah, I found it too distracting because it would keep a conversation going. Yeah, and it's like, let me look that up and bring something up and. That's one of the things I like Joe Rogan about because he's got Jamie off screen and he's like really good with that, and they'll pull it up and then we'll stop and they'll read it. Yeah, and I got to figure out what they do to get that TV not to wash out the colors, and I think it's way back.
Yeah, and it's probably a bigger screen way off. Yeah, so that you can read text or.
I don't think I have the room for it, but yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants to join us and be my Jamie on the outside, that'd be kind of cool too.
Yeah, you'll figure something out, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, to have it's just cool to have a format that you can do this in, and the fact that it's becoming accessible for you or I or anybody to be able to do is really, I mean, like I say, legacy media. Sorry, it's going down the drain. It's like, and it has been for a long time. I think and
it has, and I've disconnected myself for a long time, and I've felt happier as a result. Because it's not all the gloom and doom all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you look around you, it's like, are we really in danger? I mean, is there really anything going on?
Yeah.
No, it's not. And they have to fabricate things all the time.
Yep.
And maybe not fabricate, but they're exaggerating.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exaggeration for sure.
Even the weather, right?
Yeah.
Like today was supposed to be a really snowy day. And I disconnected from social media. I didn't hear it till my daughters came home from school and they're talking about, oh, it's going to be snow. I don't know if we have school. I'm like, I instantly look at the weather report, a low of 34. It's not even going to be freezing.
Yep.
I start laughing and but I've done actually like fake news reports out here like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like,
just for
Snowmageddon 2022.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know what we're going to do. In Michigan, it's like, but not like we ever see snow here. I'm like,
yeah. Well,
what?
I saw a thing, and I don't know how long ago it was, but it was definitely within the last 10 years, how they were showing earlier versions of like CNN and like news networks that they were more just straightforward in reporting, and then they started to show, and they said it was a trend that all these entertainment producers were starting to become the executives of the newsrooms. And so in order for and they were showing like, and I remember these clips of CNN like in the early days, and they were straightforward, like NBC Nightly News or whatever, and then they showed it as it started to gravitate, and it's like spiky headlines and this and that, and it became a lot more attention getting and flashier, but it was a lot more bullshit, and they started to like show these how it started to elevate into like, just like you're saying, when the news is Snowmageddon 2024, it's like, and it never, or if it does, it's like a half inch or something.
And honestly, I was going to do it again, but it turned to rain and it's all water out there. But I did it like I think the last 2 years, and where I'm out there and I'm stepping in a puddle of slush like this. I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was like,
I'm completely devastated.
And I've got some old photo albums where I've got like at my house, there's snow drifts up to the roof line.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, that's the snow I grew up with
back in the 80s.
You know what? I was still waiting at the bus stop,
right,
for the bus to plow through the snow, snow up to my knees. It's like. Yep. I wish I could get school off because I could go sledding from the roof.
Exactly. I remember them days, man.
But no, I had to go to school.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
I mean, I lived down south for many years, and they would snow in the forecast. They would freak out.
And
rush to grocery stores, bread, milk, and water all gone. And I'm like, it snows down here every year, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that cold, and it melts the next day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this happens every time it's in the report, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people were kind of funny, like, we think the local grocery stores all have it in with the weather report. They need to get rid of bread and milk.
Yeah,
so they call the weather guys, like, hey, tell them it's going to snow. We need to get rid of some stuff.
We got some expiration dates coming up here that we got.
So it's like, I don't get it, man.
No, yeah.
And in Michigan, like, I was so used to it, it's like, it's snowing out. What do? Go to the bar.
Yeah.
And my first weekend down in North Carolina, it's like it was snowing and it's cold. It was like actually like 0 degrees. It was actually kind of cold there.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. All right. Got my truck, 4-wheel drive, drove downtown.
Everything's closed.
Everything? I'm like, everything's closed? Like,
yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it down here.
Yeah. There's a whatever the factor of familiarity is. I mean, it's not down there, or at least they purport it to be as such. So yeah. No, I remember well. My grandparents lived in Kentucky, and down there, if it gets a little icier, maybe not as snowy, but yeah. I mean, but still, even so, you're like, you guys are freaking out about this.
Kentucky is bad for ice storms.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I drove through one on the way back from North Carolina one time.
Really?
And it was funny because people talk about, what if there's no electricity? How do you charge your electric car? I was at a gas station filling up, and boom, the entire city went out of power. and only got a couple gallons in. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can make it through the city to get to a grid that's actually powered up.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
And I'm on the road and like, all right. And it's like, I remember hanging up the thing, and guys like, I don't know how much you got. It's like, I'll just give it a couple bucks. I think I got this much in. And I think I paid him what I thought. And he's like, just go.
Yeah.
And I'm on the road, and it's like, I don't have much gas in my truck. And like, I'm going. It's like, are there lights on anywhere? Like,
yeah.
And of course, they're not good at treating the roads either.
Yeah.
There was one funny thing where I'm in 4-wheel drive. I'm maybe 50, 60 on the highway. And I'm doing pretty good. And this guy, and me being the muscle car guy I am, not liking the front wheel drive cars with the big wings on it.
Right.
This guy hits the highway, and he's front wheel drive car, big wing on it. He goes zinging past me, and then all of a sudden he just starts. And I just kind of just past him.
Right, yeah. Don't swing into me, yeah, please, yeah.
I'm gonna get ahead of you because I don't want you crashing in front of me.
100%. Yeah, no doubt.
But it's just one of those things where it's like,
yeah.
But I think I just made it out of the grid to where there was power, and I got to a gas station where there was power, so I could pump gas.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's the one funny thing. People are like, well, what if power goes out? It's like, well, if you were charging at the point and you got nearly a full charge when the power goes out, you're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you're like the same scenario where I pull up and I didn't fill my tank, and then get the kids in and whatever, go to sleep, and maybe power goes out in the middle of the night and it's like a whole grid area. Mm-hmm. I got just this much gas in my tank, and it's like I got to run to the gas station, and you can't pump gas if electricity's not going.
Yeah,
so
nothing's pumping.
I'm screwed at that point.
Yeah.
Even if I had to go get gas for my generator, right? So it's like you got to be prepared. Yeah. So I do think solar and battery walls and a battery electric car is definitely the way to go.
Okay.
And you need to be. I think every house needs a solar panel. Every house needs a battery wall. Just for those reasons, right? If the grid goes down, you've got some backup. Yeah. And honestly, if you're in the summertime and you get good sunny days, you can charge your car with it too. Yeah. Yeah. And you own your own power and you're charging your own car. Now you're filling your car up for free. Yeah. Like, wow. It sounds like a whole benefit at this point. Yeah. So, tying all that back around, but it's like,
it's difficult to break out of a syndrome when people are used to a particular way, and that's the biggest thing I can see. I mean, there's certain things about, like you say, solar and owning your own power that are fantastic. It's just, you get generations that are, well, this is the way we're doing it, and it's hard to break that mindset, I guess, Yeah.
And once again, getting back to the point where humans are very much creatures of habit.
Oh, sure.
And we fear change. Mm-hmm. And I think Wayne's World, right? And, hey, Garth, we're going to make some changes. We fear change.
Yeah, right. Well,
that's how most people are.
Yeah, because it's comfort in a sense, But getting to what you were saying earlier about if you have knowledge of what the mechanics and process of it are, well, it takes that fear away a bit. Mm-hmm. And I dare say you could probably find comfort in the knowledge of what can happen next if you know what can happen next versus, fear of the unknown, I suppose, and which, I mean, and that's granted, that's viable. We all deal with that in a certain degree, but I think what you're saying, if you can get some good, honest information about how to implement the next step of whatever it is, you can learning stuff. What was the old Carl Sagan thing? Understanding is joyous, or whatever. I just
he was a brilliant man altogether. Yeah. A lot of great quotes. Man.
I just remember seeing that on a poster. It was probably for I think it was for a mountain bike or something like that.
There's the antithesis of that is the ignorance is bliss too, right?
True. Yeah, no good. Yeah,
there are times I learned so much about something like, oh my goodness, then it can be overwhelming.
True. Too. That's the other side of the coin.
And I watch other people, they're just happy asses running around the world. I'm like, well, ignorance is bliss. Yeah. Sometimes I want to forget. Yeah. If alcohol kills brain cells.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. Right?
Sometimes, honestly, I really think that's a lot of really intelligent people will drink. And I don't know if it's just to dumb themselves down to other people's levels or just to try to knock some of that out. Then again, I also have the buffalo theory of alcohol.
Which is?
Okay. So the buffalo theory is the buffalo herd will run when predators come at them.
Yeah.
And the wolves will come at them, but they're going to pick off the sick and the weak ones, right?
Yeah.
Leaving the rest of the herd strong and healthy.
Right.
Alcohol kills brain cells, right? My theory is it kills the weak ones, leaving the rest of the brain to be strong.
There could be something to that. Yeah. No. Yeah.
So that's been my buffalo theory of alcohol, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
I need a twin to not
Right.
drink. And maybe we can have a study between them.
We need a what is it? The constant or what the
Control.
control. That's it for the experiment. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe a couple clones. We'll try different things.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Yeah, man.
So I think that's good. Now,
Yeah.
There's any other topics that's something burning, anything you want to talk about? Get out. Is there
We've
anybody-
covered quite a decent.
Yeah,
I mean, in a flowing cross section of
hit
topics.
some different topics and
Yeah.
we've brought things back around. And sometimes I'll check in with people. And it's like, does any of this make sense? Because I know I go around to a lot of different topics, but I do try to tie it back in.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might trail off a little too far and don't realize, okay, what was I talking about again?
Well,
But
I think any natural conversation goes that way in the first place, and I mean
which is what I'm looking for.
exactly. Yeah. So I think yeah, maybe you go off and we or you or whoever goes off on some non sequiturs and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, there is still the constant of a conversation via a podcast, and it's contained in such a way. So even if it does kind of go off the rails, it's still, okay, well, it takes an hour or two, and it doesn't go any further than that. So if you can keep your mental constraints, at least the way I think about it. But
Yeah, and I like listening into things I can learn. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Jordan Peterson. He's someone I can agree with on about 85% of what he says.
Mm-hmm.
You get in his wheelhouse, like clinical psychology, he's really not wrong.
uh-huh.
Some other things I could probably debate him on.
Okay.
There's other guys, and he came on my radar when he kind of crossed Sam Harris.
Yeah.
And I really liked Sam Harris for a while.
Yeah.
And in more recent years, he's gotten, I don't know why he got so political. And
I've noticed that too.
yeah, and I'm kind of like, I don't like you so much anymore. You're really good on certain topics, but you're gravitating toward what you dislike about those topics and what you're saying now.
Yeah.
You're withholding a political ideology as if it's religion, and you fight against religion in a lot of what you say.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen a lot of the new age atheists do that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, I really like you guys, but now when you're getting political, I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
In fact, I know you're wrong, and this is how I can. And I've tried to comment on some of these guys in videos, and one guy came at me and he said something like, "Oh, you're showing your hand." I'm like, "Am I?" And someone else came in and it's like, "Oh, he does that to everybody."
No.
And it's like, "Oh, he's never going to reply to you," because I had like a long reply to him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Sam Harris; it was another guy. But
Yeah, trolls are the worst though,
Yeah.
like that. I mean, and they I dare say some of them do it on purpose just because they can needle somebody and hope that they just,
go away.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I want to do is I want to maintain a blue collar pub type conversation here, but I also want to be part of the bigger conversations.
Sure.
Like I said, I did go after Scotty Kilmer, and that's an automotive thing, and
Yeah.
that's a subject I know a lot of.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, dude, it's like you should debate my former boss, Sandy Monroe.
Yeah.
If you don't want to debate him, debate me.
Yeah.
Because I can take it too, buddy, and I can take it to task. I know I can. I've done the homework. I've done the studying. I know what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of other subjects I want to get onto. And Jordan Peterson's one of those guys. He's a beautiful mind. I think he's got a lot right. I think he's done a lot of good for a lot of people. But there's some topics where he kind of gets a little off kilter. But I watch him kind of try to work this out in real time. It's like almost painful to me.
What do you
watch
think
him
he goes off kilter? I'm just curious. Not that I'm
in the
challenging.
religion side of things.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that's just been my observation.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I think where he's going with it, he's kind of on a very, how do I say that? He's very kind of it's almost like an open topic of what God is to him.
Okay.
And he does refer to the Bible, and I'm like, I have some problems with that, but it is what it is.
Okay.
So I've got a completely different concept of all that stuff.
Okay.
Based on all the things I've learned and observed over time.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into that with you. I don't know if that's a touchy subject with you, but
I could. Well,
I won't go into it with people.
Yeah, I don't want to
know
at this point.
For them. Yeah, we're getting late here, so
yeah.
And if it's another topic we want to get into, I would love to do that with somebody someday. But even with someone different ideas than me, it's like, let's talk it out. I want to hear it.
Yeah, I do.
I want to know if my ideas are solid or if I got flaws in them.
Well. Yeah, I mean, I do have a minor in biblical theology.
Oh, really?
I do.
Oh, you might be a good guy for that.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm any expert, but I have listened to a lot of theological debates about even.
So I'm sure you're aware of Christopher Hitchens.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah. I've watched a lot of those too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and basically, even in terms of history. Church history, and I think there's a lot of things that have, at least in terms of theology, that have maybe been skewed by history a little bit, or things that, Rome has said that aren't quite right. But that's my take on it. But
I was raised Catholic, so
yeah.
I make the same claim George Carlin did. It's like, I was raised Catholic till I reached the age of reason.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
and I do like the way George Carlin was such a brilliant man.
Yes,
I like the way he says something. It was so cool. It's like, I do the same thing with that as I do everything else. I apply logic and reason and watch your argument fall apart. I'm like, yeah. I'm a very logical person, and I'm a very reasonable person. So I like to apply that format and pure logic. It's really cool. It goes all the way back to Socrates. Like Socrates, just ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask questions as if you know nothing.
Right.
And you'll watch someone else. You'll find the limits of what they know.
True.
And a lot of people will go to anger.
Yeah.
Frustrated. Or to go to authority. And it's like, okay,
right.
Now I know your limits.
Yeah.
And I know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And
I think ultimately everything goes to an authority of some sort. It's just where you place it.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And you have a certain level of trust, and some people will call that a belief or faith.
Yeah.
But it's they're very similar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But if learnable, traceable, that kind of thing. But yeah, in engineering, I always say the same thing with engineering, physics, and philosophy have very similar principles. Like you hear Elon Musk talk about breaking things down in a physics basic.
Yeah.
First principles thinking is what they call it.
Yeah.
Breaking things down to the atoms and then reassembling it.
Yeah.
That's how he made rockets, for a fraction of the price of NASA, right?
Yeah. Talk about reverse engineering it.
And then engineering, we call it root cause analysis. Something fails, we find out what the root cause was.
Right.
And then we can fix it and make it better and move forward. And then philosophies, like Socrates, the Socratic method, right?
Yeah.
Just asking questions until you know.
Right.
And it's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And they all, to me, all are interrelated.
Yeah.
And I think those are three things I've tried to work with and apply in my life, and I've found some pretty good success with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I like it. Man, I think that's another topic. If you want to have that topic of discussion, I think that would be a great one.
If you want to, I mean,
you're welcome to come back anytime, man.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Thanks,
Jason.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Yeah.
So, tip your servers well.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, guys. Thank you for having good talking tonight.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we can continue this.
Yeah.
What I like to do.
Bring us pints of beer. Don't drink, you can live. Bring us pints of beer. We gonna drink now and here.